Hi there, my name is Jennifer Dayton, author of the book 7 Secrets to Horsemanship and Understanding Horses. This here is Echo. She's with me for moral support today as we talk about the first principle involved in the first of 3 involved in overcoming horses. The first principle involved in overcoming spookiness in horses is to not make an issue of it. Okay, this is something that's a little counterintuitive because if, let's say, your horse is scared of a pile of jumps, or a jump in particular, or something out in the time it takes for you to walk from their paddock to the barn, there's something along that path that they spook at constantly. And you've taken your horse up to it, you've shown your horse the jump, you've shown your horse the whatever it is that they're scared of, and they've blown all over it, they've checked it out, and they continue to spook at it. One of the big key things that this does is creates an issue about it. You've made it a big deal. Okay? So how do you still show them that that's a safe object and not make it a big deal? Well, there's a couple principles there's a couple, not principles, that is the principle. There's a couple things involved with that. So we're going to go through that and just look at what you can do to not make an issue of it. It is an issue. You need to address it, but not directly. I think the more that we intuitively show the horse the problem, whatever they are, maybe genuinely scared of, maybe not, but I think we make it into a bigger deal. So it's not that you ignore it, but you do something else. And that will start to get the horse focused on the something else and not on what the problem is. So we're going to work through that. We're going to go into some direct teaching there, and I'll see you back here after we've gone through that. So when we're looking at solving spookiness in horses, we can look at 3 fundamental principles that will guide you in solving it. This first video is going to look at the first principle, which is don't make an issue of what it is that the horse is spooking or shying at. Reassure your horse by focusing on other things and indirectly dealing with the object he is spooking at. So too often we see that the right thing that we think is to actually present the horse directly with the object. Now, here in the video, I tried to get my horse to spook. I tried to make a spooky thing and get my horse to spook to show you what we do, take them directly to it. Now, he fortunately is now older and not very spooky at all, so he just smelled my creation. And but you can see by the stance that that's a common thing that people do for their horse, and that they present. So if it's a jump in the corner, or the tractor that's parked in the arena, or something that they have to pass on the way to the barn, or whatever it is that they're consistently spooking at, that we force them to look at it. I think before we get ahead of ourselves, it's important to step back and think a little bit about how a horse sees things. How much they react to things and how much they perceive their environment, of course, has a lot to do with their vision. And the more we can understand how they see things, the more we can understand where their spookiness might arise from. And although it might not directly help deal with it, it sometimes can give us a better approach or a better understanding of where it comes from. It also helps to see why this directly showing them the objects at close range doesn't always work out the best. So let's take a look at some of the information that I actually have in a chapter in my book, Understanding Horses, on how a horse sees. Horses are dichromates, which means they have the ability to see some color, but not as much of a range as we do. We are, as humans, trichromates. So if you look at the chart on the slide, the upper diagram is the rainbow of colors that we as humans see. The lower diagram is the range that a horse typically sees. So you can see that they see mostly in blues and yellows. Their visual acuity is about 20 to 30 on the Snellen scale. That meaning with a person that has standard vision, what they would see from 30 feet away, a horse needs to be 20 feet away to see it. So, but having said that, horses are very good at noting movement from great distances. We talk about visual acuity with the horse, and acuity refers to the accuracy and the detail of what they see. A horse has the poorest visual acuity of all the domestic species of animals. Because we know this because they have the lowest concentration of nerve cells relaying image information from the centrally located field called the visual streak to the brain. It's the optic nerve that's the eye's connection to the brain and sends the brain information to process about the visual environment the eye is taking in by the curved retina. So retinas are lined with two types of light-sensing cells called rods and cones. And you might remember that from science class or biology class way back when. Cones are the cells responsible for detecting colors, while rods handle vision in low lights. Uh, the two types of cells can work together to provide both humans and horses with vision. We too see very little color in low light when the rods are working, but the horse's retina is rich in rods. The important thing to note here is that their eyes adjust to changing light much slower than human eyes do. So this is important when you bring a horse into a dark barn, a trailer, a wash bay, that they need a little bit more time to adjust to the light. Horses are more comfortable in a more open paddock and often, preferably on higher terrain. This has a lot to do with their sense of vision because they're more comfortable when they can see more of their surroundings and sense movement in the distance. So if they live in a heavily wooded area or a low-lying paddock surrounded by hills and congestion, they are more on edge and reactive to sounds and motion than if they live out in a more open paddock that overlooks their surrounding. When an object that a horse is looking at is in focus, the horse appears extremely good at detecting very small, detailed movements. And that has to do with them being a prey animal.
The ability of a horse to focus on anything less than 3 feet away is limited, and inside 1.5 feet, most vision is likely blurred. Any ability to focus on detail is limited. But a horse is not hindered by this poor vision of close-up objects. It's still able to respond accurately and appropriate to training and daily handling. But when having difficulty catching a horse, for instance, making sudden movements in close proximity or any motion to grab at the horse will often result in the horse panicking. And this is in part why. The field of vision a horse has is about 215 degrees for each eye. So what a field of vision is, it means the entire space that a complete visual image of an eye can be formed. This large range that each eye has gives the horse a huge panoramic view of everything. So only what is directly behind the horse is outside his field of vision until he moves his head and neck. This panoramic view explains the horse's ability to detect movement at great distances. So that's why we always say that a horse has a blind spot behind them. We all know that. That's one of the first things we learn about horses is not to approach them from behind. And that's why, because it's easier to startle them. A horse sees 2 different images out of each eye with this monocular vision. So a horse can watch literally 2 things at once. They could watch a horse running around in a paddock nearby with one eye. They could watch the inside of an arena with an instructor waving her arms out of the other eye. At one time, these images that were seen out of both eyes were not thought to connect in the brain. We thought we needed to present the horse with something on both sides of their body so they understood it was the same thing. And this has a lot to do with solving spookiness. But recent research has shown that this is not necessary. The horse does actually make a connection. The horse also uses both eyes together in a binocular vision capacity. About 60 to 70 degrees of overlap of their both eyes working together happens in front of them. And in this area, the horse has much greater depth perception and a much greater ability to judge position. The field of vision is also influenced by the shape of his head, the distance between his eye, the size of the eye relative to other facial features. As the size of the nostrils, muzzle, and length of the head increases, the field of vision is decreased to a degree. Horses that have large, wide-set eyes have a greater field of vision. If they have a Roman nose, some horses have smaller eyes with a larger nose. They have some impaired vision with that. Horses with large, wide jaws will limit their vision when looking down. Horses also have a blind spot on the ground from the front legs to about 4 feet in front of the head. So because of this blind spot in front of them, from their front feet to 4 feet ahead, horses shouldn't ever be approached directly in front, where their field of vision is limited. That sounds so basic, but you continually see people greeting horses this way, going up to horses like this, even the people that work in the horse industry daily. So people are not aware, or they don't think about this. It seems natural to approach them directly, but this is also why a horse will reach his nose out to smell you when he's close, because that helps him judge, who you are. It helps their, supplement their vision and their visual acuity at close proximity. So what's the solution? If we can't, knowing all of this about how a horse sees, that they don't have very much visual acuity, that they perceive changes in movement at great distances, that they don't have good depth perception when they're using monocular vision, but when they use their eyes together in a limited capacity in front of them, they can. It means that we have to be a little smarter than them. It means that because of their limited vision directly in front, taking them to whatever they're scared of doesn't work. So the solution moves into actually the second and third principles, which we will discuss in videos 2 and 3. So before we go into the second principle, let's just talk about relaxation and the importance of relaxation when your horse is spooking. Sometimes they just need a moment, like in the photo here, to look at and take in whatever it is that they're reacting to or looking at, and just reassuring them can give them the moment that they need to just absorb it all. So if we get tense in anticipation of a spook, we often create it or make it way worse. We have to teach ourselves to relax and to actually offer reassuring energy to the horse. The worst thing I see people do when a horse is just looking at something big happens, is to get mad at them. That does nothing to comfort the horse, because there is a genuine fear there. So, if you have a fear in you, that's normal as well, but you've got to teach yourself to relax through it and reassure the horse through it. It does lead into the second principle, which is focusing on the obedience of the aids. But before that, let's give you a tool to start with. This is a young mare that came into the arena for the first time, and we're going to say that she was really scared of the jumps in the corner. Now, she really wasn't, and if the horse really reacted, I might not do this so close to the corner. I might do it halfway through and then work towards the corner, but I'm giving her something to do. So I'm not saying, okay, smell these jumps. I'm saying, let's do some circling here this way. Let's do some circling here that way. Let's give you a job. And she has a moment to kind of take it all in. Like we said, she can see the jumps out of the one eye. She can see me out of the other eye, but she's got something else to do. So this is part of the second principle. So that in turn moves into the same work under saddle. So, again, if she's really spooky and I couldn't get her that close to the corner without a big reaction, well, that's fine. I just would do it a little bit further up the wall to a point where she was comfortable, and I would work her towards there. Then I just do the same exact exercise when I'm on her back. I'm pushing her around off my inside leg. She's still not very educated to what an inside leg means, to move away from the pressure there. You can see her ears going. She hasn't been ridden in the bridle too many times at this point. She's figuring things out. She's taking it all in, but I'm giving her something to do. So again, that goes into the second principle. But approaching the object indirectly, as opposed to taking her to it and making her smell it, is a much better way to handle it. And then they start to relax and they start to concentrate on what they should be concentrating on. Now, at one moment in this ride, they're actually re-siding the arena, and they started to tear the old siding off, and there was some banging noises. So you'll see the moment where I let her stop and have a look and just reassure her. That should be coming up there. And I just reassure her. I let her have that moment because she's not being bad. She's wondering what the heck is going on here. What's the banging noises? And then she goes on. Okay, so again, she's not a very reactive horse, but I also have this energy that I can help her not be reactive. I'm staying relaxed through it all. I'm giving her reassurance. I'm not making an issue out of anything. Okay, so not making an issue out of what it is that they spook at really helps avoid the spook at all.
So I hope that information helps and gives you a different way to think about it. I've watched one horse in particular recently where her owner, who was in her late teens and had been riding since she was about 8 or 9, maybe a little younger. I knew her from the time she was 8 or 9. And the horse, she would make the issue of it. She would take her to the corner that she was always scared of. She would make her look at whatever it was. And then she left and went to be a working student down south. And I had the opportunity to work with her horse. And the more that I just did this principle, the less it became a big deal. So something that she had been spooking at for months and months and months stopped being an issue because I stopped presenting it as such. So this is something that's really, if you've tried a bunch of things and it's just not working, you need to try this. Okay, so I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. The next video is going to be much more tactile than this. This is more of a attitude adjustment and a philosophy behind it. There are some exercises, of course, in the download that you can do with it, with this principle. But the second principle is much more tactical. We're going to go into it in the next video. So watch for that in your inbox. In the meantime, go out and enjoy your horse and try some of this today.
So the next video, we are going to talk about the real solution to the problem of spookiness. We're also going to give you a free download, an exercise book filled with ideas of activities to do with your spooky horse to keep him or her engaged and focused on you, not whatever else grabs their attention. So watch for that coming in a few days to your inbox. There's a download with this video that gives you a couple exercises. It's much more extensive with the next video. There'll be another exercise book. So we've kind of divided it into 2 parts. So watch for that coming to your inbox in a couple days. And for more free content, go to our website at www.horselovercentral.com.